What's up, everybody? On today's episode, we have my friend Steven Terrones. Steven and his wife, Nikki, went from food stamps to over $500,000 in the last 5 years. They have side hustles that have evolved into making more money than their full-time jobs. And they have a heart to help people escape overwhelm, busyness, and distraction and find a life of simplicity, contentment, and true wealth. Well, great to be here with you, Steven. So glad that you're on the podcast. This is only episode number 2, man. So
let's go.
It's an honor to have you on. For those that are just tuning in, Steven is a good friend of mine. We go way back, probably 15 years, maybe 10 years back. And him and his wife have recently launched a couple businesses, and you've been in the event space for a long time. So excited to allow you to explain kind of your journey in business. But yeah, a lot of fun stuff to talk about. So thanks for being on.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me, bro. Like 10 years or so we've been in business, and then we've seen the evolution of what our businesses have evolved into. So excited to be here and just help people get clarity in their finances, get clarity in the next step for themselves. And so thank you. Appreciate you having me.
For sure. Now, if you want to kick us off, tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurship journey. How did you get started? What was maybe some of the early things you got into?
Man, so one of the best parts of getting into entrepreneurship and just figuring it out and starting is you kind of start something without knowing you had started something. So for me, that was DJing and the wedding DJ business. But it started with just playing music for friends at my house. I just remember in 2009 having a group over. I downloaded some free software, so that way there was no, gap in the music. So that honestly led to people thinking I was a DJ, but I wasn't. I just was playing music, and then they just naturally reached out saying, "Hey, will you do like my birthday party?" And then one event led to another, but it started with just getting into business without knowing I was into business. That's at least for me and for a lot of people, like the best side hustle or business you can dive into is something you're already doing and that you're passionate about. Like you don't need to overthink it. You don't need to make it super complicated. You just think about what are you doing that you love and how you can serve others. And then one thing led to another. I was even supposed to DJ your wedding.
That's right. Yeah. And of course, COVID knocked that off the shelf.
You canceled me.
I know, right? Man. So we ended up doing our wedding on a hill with like 20 people.
Wow.
And it was a beautiful wedding, but definitely crazy times.
Yeah, honestly. So yeah, no, that's what it was for us for me was that led to one thing and led to another. And then I just started seeing the opportunity with serving people on their wedding. And so DJing then led to our photo booth business. And with the photo booth business, that's something, it's still I'm passionate about, but it was being a DJ, offering photo booth on the side. And then just as seasons changed in my life and interests changed, like I didn't want to be a DJ anymore, just late nights. Still have now early mornings with kids. So the photo booth business has now evolved out of that. And I think something with entrepreneurship is it's usually not the first idea or thing you had in mind that ends up working out. So it was DJing and that was great. But like, we're just so passionate now with my wife and I. She does a balloon business and I do the photo booth side. And so both of us together, we're like operating 2 businesses, but one. So
I love it. Well, what's really cool is your point about you start something thinking that will be your business. And the reality is you end up pivoting to something else. And I can relate a lot to that. I feel like going into the container home business, initially, I was just telling my wife this actually, I think it was just yesterday I had this convo with her. And I was like, it's interesting that the most successful things I'm doing right now, I never would have decided to do on day one. I would have said, I never would want to do that. Or that's not a great idea. The thing that I have now is the best idea. Mm-hmm. But in pursuing that, you start to realize either, it is the best idea, or shoot, this has challenges and I see another opportunity that might be better. And I feel like it is, from my experience, so much trial and error. Like it's just throwing something at the wall. You can't predict it 100%. You just have to try it. And you realize like, oh, dude, that went really good. That was cool.
Yeah, and then I also saw that evolve from like personal finances. I got on this personal finance journey with honestly being in this place where we had nothing. We were on food stamps. I went all in on a career, didn't work out.
Yeah.
So then I didn't have a job. First mortgage payment was on the way. We just bought a little townhome. Just thinking about that season was like, wow, now I have nothing. And I never want to be in this situation again. And so your mind just starts thinking differently. Like there's a hunger of, I'm going to get out of this because there's no other option. And so when you reach that place, and sometimes that's what it takes, but when you get to that point where there's no other option, but like putting your head above water just so you can breathe, you just start thinking differently. So on a day where I'm walking our dog, and I hate my dog, but I was thinking, all right, I'm outside. I'm not working. Other people are working. I'm walking the dog, and all these dogs are barking inside the house. It's like, maybe that's an opportunity to also walk another dog while walking my dog. So what I'm saying is just that led to the next thing. Like, sure, that business maybe it could have taken off, but like I didn't want to. Like that was like a means to an end. So it was able to help us get out of that situation of just fully depending on food stamps. But then it led to the next opportunity and the next opportunity. And now it's something really cool to look back on and think, wow, like God took us from being in that situation with the baby, a mortgage, and being on food stamps to now show people how to get out of it.
That's amazing.
Without any like trickery or without any, sales type of stuff. Like, no, it's just commitment and just a strategy to make it happen. So yeah, it just like you said, just the dog walking business for us, I hated it, but like it led to something else, and it led to just helping people learn different ways to get out of that.
What's interesting to me is that when you were in a situation where you needed money, you didn't think to yourself, or maybe you did, hey, let me go get another W-2 job. Like, what is it about you that led you to ask the question, what can I start doing to make money myself? Like, did you grow up in a family where that's what you were surrounded by, or what is that?
I mean, I grew up in a traditional house, working family, normal day jobs and things like that. But my family did instill in me is just figuring it out, like getting like just problem solving, just figuring it out. So I just love the spirit of entrepreneurship, because your income potential is unlimited.
Yeah.
And if you're not afraid of hard work, like anyone listening to this, there's something in you that you can serve other people with.
Now, looking back on your involvement in the event space businesses, so you started off doing DJing. It was cool for a season. Eventually, with a family, it just was hard to juggle and do it. You guys pivoted. In what year was it that you guys pivoted to doing the photo booth and the balloon business?
So it started with my wife, and she was in a similar situation of motherhood. We're having our second child now. And it was just this pull on her heart of just being home with the kids. I think a lot of moms, families can relate there's just this pull of wanting to enjoy those early years of being with your kids as much as possible. And so what that led to for us, the decision was, well, how do we make this work with one of us working, budgeting off of one income, but we still have the same bills, now even more. And so we took a leap of faith, but faith like backed up by like stewardship and actions of being wise with our money to put us in that type of position. So it's something cool to look back on of, wow, we weren't really preparing a few years ago to do this, but by just stewarding well in that season and for those last 5 years, it led to, well, now we have the opportunity to stay home with the kids and budget off one income. But all credit to my wife. She was just home with our kids, and she just needed something to just drive her. Like it it is a full-time job in itself watching kids, as you know now.
Absolutely.
Father of two. But there's just something in her of just serving people and doing something bigger than herself. So then she started, first she started like making these little Christmas ornaments. 2 people bought. so I mean, that wasn't going to be a way to sustain our income, so to speak.
I love that though. Like that's the process, right? Like she just took a swing. She said, "Hey, this could be a cool thing to do, and try it, and see what happens."
Yeah, exactly. So she started with that. Shout out to the 2 people that bought the homemade Christmas ornaments. But then that led to expanding ideas, looking into different options. And so she started a balloon stylist business, beautiful balloon garlands, and does events now, does pickups for people. So she got into that. And so then that led to me, it's kind of an odd match of DJing and balloon service, but I'm already running a photo booth as part of my DJ business. And so then we went all in. So that started early 2022. So
That's awesome. Now, let me ask you this, for like doing the photo booth business, what was the startup cost for something like that? It's pretty much the investment in the photo booth and then maybe website and some branding around it.
So the investment with the booth itself is about $8,000, plus some other materials and things that you need to get it all up and running. And so when I presented that to my wife, like that's a big investment. That's not something we're just used to. Yeah, let's go buy it. But when you just have the drive and every belief in yourself that something's going to work out because there's no other option, which we learn from being on food stamps. So that was such a big blessing and continues to be a blessing in our life of, no, we have this mindset of failure is just not on the board. Like, I will start delivering pizzas. I'll sell the car like I had to before, because that's just the drive of, we're going to invest in this and we're not going to let it be an option that it doesn't work out. So while that can seem scary and while that can seem, I don't know if I can do that, it becomes a lot less scarier when I'm going to bet on myself every time. I'm going to make it work. I'm going to figure this out. And then you do.
Now, let me ask you this, because I really love the stories like your guys' story of starting out small. Like, that's my story. Like, I started out buying a container. It was all the money I had. It was $3,900. And then I had a year of time where I would work 2 to 3 jobs, save up money. And then, the spare day every week that I had would go right into working on that container. And I think what you're sharing with your story of the photo booth, it's something that it's a really beautiful story, I think, for people that want to get in the business to hear, because it sounds attainable. Like, someone can save up $8,000. Now, did you guys pull out a loan to do the $8,000, or you'd been saving up until that point and this was, money that you had set aside and saved?
No, yeah, great. For that particular season, that was money saved up. Cool. That was having an emergency fund. And that's awesome. So that's one of the beautiful parts of teaching personal finance. And from a perspective you might not be thinking about, but having that emergency fund let us take a bet on ourselves, a bet that we're like, no, we're not going to lose. So now if we were in a spot of, okay, this requires credit or just, not being able to really afford it, what if this doesn't work out? That all those questions right there might be enough to just stop you from taking a risk. So for us, that was the size of the investment, because we knew we were going to make this thing the best that it can be, go all in on it. And so with having an emergency fund and getting your personal finances in order, it allows you to take some risk in entrepreneurship that you might not otherwise be able to.
That's great. I love that. And I feel like with your story, you take this leap, you say, hey, we're going to invest $8,000. We're going to get this photo booth. And for you, it probably wasn't so much a blind leap, which I like. I feel like because of your experience previously, having been a DJ, having been in that field, is that something that you had seen people do before and it worked? And so it gave you the confidence to know, like, hey, I think we're going to be able to make this happen? Or was it more of a little bit of a blind leap?
Well, yeah, it was a full bet that we're going to make this work. But that comes with consistency in anything, in any field, just like you guys, where you went out into another venture with your business. Well, because you started with that initial business, you were just being consistent. You learned what works, what doesn't work. You learned what you're providing, what service people are getting from you, what value they're getting. So I learned that through my original business. And so then that investment, having the personal finances to back that up, having the drive, and then having the consistency and experience, it almost becomes like a no-brainer.
I love that. And another thing that I thought was really cool is your wife starting the balloon artistry style business, right? Mm-hmm. What's cool about that, what was the startup cost for something like that? Pretty minimal?
Oh man, yeah, minimal.
Like $3. No, I'm just making that up. But
No.
Balloons, string, perseverance, and some branding.
Probably $100 to just
that's
get
insane.
some balloons.
There's a book out there called The $100 Startup, and it's all about startups that people have done that are low cost. So I think this is really encouraging. And I love this approach because, especially for someone that's early on in business, like for me, I'm glad I didn't take out a loan for $200,000 and try to launch a business.
Right.
Dude, I'd have no rights doing that. Like I had no experience. Who am I to borrow someone else's $200,000 to try to mess around with it and hope it works out? So I love that you were scrappy, you used what you had, you were innovative, and you guys were able to launch a business in an affordable way, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I think going straight to overwhelm of the business loan and just going straight to, I don't know if entrepreneurship is right for me. That stems from just years of learning, like in business, the business portion of high school. It's taking out loans. It's like all the overhead. That's great. But like that is very discouraging for just starting small, starting simple, and expanding from there.
Right.
You mentioned going from a full set of like overhead employees and now scaling down, but it's actually, you can breathe a little bit better.
Absolutely. Well, and that's what I like about when I'm thinking about your business. There's a lot of things that I feel like I kind of went into business chasing one path and kind of hit a dead end and realized, man, I don't like this path and I don't like the road that I'm going on, and had to do a massive pivot in a different direction that I feel like is a direction that you guys are taking. So I think it's really cool. Like even the fact that not only can you start a business with, lower startup cost, then you can also run a business with a lean overhead. And I'd like to ask you on that topic, overhead wise, is there a lot of overhead in what you're doing, or is it a very lean kind of operation?
No, it's very minimal overhead. And that's one of the biggest reasons why, you're doing your due diligence when starting a business. I love the photo booth business because our business can fit in the trunk of my Corolla. It's a printer, it's a photo booth, but that's not what we're selling. We're providing the service of excellence for people on the biggest day of their life. We're going to show up on time. We're going to communicate on time right away. But I like the low startup cost because it's very attainable for anyone if that's serious. And it's very, it's less intimidating to start small, but then expand on that. But expanding, like, it doesn't mean having this big old company. You can, that's certainly a direction. We just are all in on low overhead, low employees, right? We still haven't hired our first, but we haven't needed to yet. And so I love that growth for us doesn't mean being busy every single day of the week. And the photo booth business is huge on that. Most events are Friday or Saturday, and that allows us to do what we want during the week. And for me, that's my day job, which I love doing, and I'm helping people with their finances. So yeah, we've just found the best of both worlds. But I don't think being in business automatically is buying a shop, selling something. It can be, but it's not for everyone. If we were all running shops, there'd be no customers to buy from. So,
well, and I saw a post of yours and it talked about, like, my wife and I were not trying to build the next Amazon. Mm-hmm. Like, we're trying to build a business that is going to be a family business that we can pass on to our daughters. And I feel like we live in a time where the idea of success, at least this is how I understood it, is big. So I grew up with a family where my dad at one point had 100 employees. My uncle right now probably has 100 employees. And I just had this idea of like what success is having a business where you got 30,000 square feet of space, big old warehouse, 100 employees, and that's success. And like you're saying, it can be a version of success, and that can be success for someone. But for me, that was like a nightmare, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't like managing large groups of people. That's not in my natural skill set. I'm just not wired that way. And when I was trying to like force myself into that kind of a business, I was just really frustrated and I didn't enjoy it. And so I think it's cool that for you guys, you're in a lot of ways showing people, hey, there's another path. Like, you don't have to be Amazon to be successful.
Right.
How do you define success in business for you guys?
That is or can be someone's version of success. But like you, I didn't gravitate towards that idea because it just involves more of your time. And what good is it for me of spending every hour of the day working to have all this stuff or have this, we need the Amazons, we need the Apples, keep costs low because they're producing so much. But like, that's just not our vision. It's like, our vision more is to have control of our time and our side hustles now that have outgrown our full-time jobs, to where my wife can even be without a full-time job. Like our first vision of success is having our time. And that comes with clarity of like knowing what you want out of your small business, because someone could be selling something that makes them $50 a week, and that extra $200 helps pay the bills, helps them with their monthly expenses. But just having that clarity, and that's where we needed something instant like that, the dog walking business. But then it led to, the photo booth business, the balloon business. But it's having clarity on what you actually want out of your side hustle.
I love it. Well, I want to chime in there because I feel like you nailed it. What do you want? I feel like a lot of times, because we're bombarded with messages on social media, whether it's YouTube or Instagram, and it's a lot of times, if you're in the small business entrepreneurial space and you love listening to that kind of stuff, like, dude, I always am getting hit with like the get rich quick kind of content. Mm-hmm. And the content that's like, hey, you're not successful unless you have a Lamborghini, a 10,000 square foot house, you just go on vacation all the time. And so I think this version of success that you're talking about is a lot more relatable to people, and it's a lot more attainable. And I think that question of like, what do you really want? Like, dude, do you really want the Lamborghini and the 10,000 square foot house? Because like, that's what they're telling you is going to make you happy. But the truth is, most people that I know that have success and have purchased these big purchases, they'd be the first to tell you like, that is not the thing that's making me happy. And so for you to be able, and I think you do this better than most people I know, I feel like you guys have done an excellent job of identifying what do we actually want in our life. And let's build around that. So that doesn't mean, my wife's got to drive the Range Rover and I have, a Maserati. For you, it might mean, hey, whatever that is, but that is shaped around what you really want in life and what is the things in life that are actually giving you value. Like, dude, the emblem on the car isn't really providing you value, Right.
No, the foundation is fulfillment. When you strive for fulfillment over success, like, that's where you find contentment in what you do. And if you don't have contentment in what you do, you find ways to figure that out. There wasn't a lot of contentment in being on food stamps. That's not what I wanted for my wife, my kids, us growing up. We didn't want that contentment in, we'll just chill back and all our groceries will be paid for us. Like, we didn't want that. And so we discovered what we did want: time with each other, time with our kids, operating a business with low overhead. And so when you discover and meet with a coach, that'll help you discover that. Get deep into podcasts that'll just help you along the way. But when you dive into like, what do I really want and what brings me fulfillment? And for me, that's my family, my faith. getting my personal finances in order so I can sleep at night, my health, fitness. So defining what we wanted, and then we built around that, is just how we're just content with what we have, but we're still fully ambitious, though, for what we want.
I love that. And I remember hearing a couple people kind of talk on this point before, and it was these two thoughts I really appreciated. One was this idea of capping your success. And that's not to say like you're literally putting a ceiling on yourself, but it ties in with this other thought of, it sounds counterintuitive, but not pursuing your potential. Now, what I mean by that is in business, for example, like me doing the container homes. Well, I could potentially work 16 hours a week and make that my number one priority, 16 hours a day, make that my number one priority, and all my attention goes into that, right? That would be me pursuing the potential of the business 100%. But like you said, that's not going to bring fulfillment. At the end of the day, people will say it like when you're on your deathbed, you're not thinking about your unread emails, you're thinking about relationships, you're thinking about your family, you're thinking about your kids. And that's a clue that those are the things that are truly fulfilling and important in your life. So I love that idea that someone showed me, like, cap your success, don't pursue your potential. But at the same time, like you said, you have an interesting quote there, you also are still fully ambitious. So how do you maintain being content while at the same time pressing forward for what you want or for more or things like that?
Right. I think when we say contentment or think of contentment, we oftentimes confuse it with complacency. And that is by no means at all like what contentment is. Contentment is appreciating what you have, being thankful for what you have, enjoying what you have, loving what you have, that it fulfills you so much that you just have enough. And so when you have that ability to just live in this state of everything you have is enough, man, when you get added to that, it's like, wow, what a blessing. This is incredible. We got booked again. Like, that is like incredible. Like, so it's having contentment, but that doesn't mean complacency. Being simply content, but fully ambitious is because it brings fulfillment to me of teaching my kids to be ambitious for what you want, teaching them, here are the right ways to steward your money, to be a good person. Like, we still have this mission and this drive to raise up the next generation, our kids, help them. And so now that we're investing in them, then you start thinking outside of like, well, what if I can help retire my parents? Like, what would that look like? So there's not a complacency spirit. It's a contentment, but ambitious of maybe these things aren't what I actually want. Because it would be like, think about that. How cool would it be if you're in a situation where your parents are still trying to figure things out with their money or their business or their work? Like, that's how it gets you thinking when you just go, all right, we got our stuff in order. Now we're thinking of our kids. Now we're thinking of our parents. And then it'll grow outside that. So we're still driven and ambitious for the things we want, but not complacent.
Love that. That's great. Now I want to rewind a little bit back to Pop Snap Co. And, I love that your story is one where you launched Lean. You didn't have to take out a bunch of debt to get going. And then you currently are operating at Lean. I have this framework, I call it get launched, get lean, and get leverage. And it's all about that. Hey, how do you start up with as little capital as possible? How do you then run it without taking on a ton of overhead? But then the last point is, how do you get leverage? And leverage is that thing that, you put a little bit of effort in, but you get a maximum amount of result. So I want to talk about specifically more on the marketing front when it comes to getting word out. How are you creating awareness about your guys' business?
Yeah, if anyone is starting, or at least a service-based business like a photo booth, the first thing is you're like, don't go towards, do I need to run ads? Do I need a website? All those things will come, but you got to just start with like your immediate circle. Someone that you can serve, a friend, a family member, an upcoming birthday party. So that's what it was for us, is just what's an event we could do right away. And that was through members of our church, through our families. We just started with getting familiar with what we're doing. And so when you start that way, you're doing a low, like, stress event, so to speak. Like, I would even do it for free. That's how we started. We wanted to start this thing Hey, can we do that? Can we do that? Oh, how much is it going to cost? Nothing. Sure. Okay, great. So we're doing a couple events starting for free with people we already know. Like, do not go right to doing a wedding for someone. Like, you're going to stress yourself out. You're probably going to not deliver the best results. And someone that's hiring you for free for their wedding, like, no. So, like, just starting with your community around you, serve them with whatever service you're doing. And that, like, it can be that simple, because once you do that, start with serving the people around you. And then in exchange, like, we ask for reviews. So we got a platform built, your Google profile built, easy. It doesn't cost any money. People leave reviews, and that's what people outside of your community start seeing. The public starts finding you. They start seeing good reviews. Hopefully you did a good job. But you just start simple. Start with serving the people closest to you. They'll tell you if you did a good job or not, because they'll ask you again, or they won't ask you again. But like, that's just the beauty of the business model of, like, service-based businesses. Starting with just yourself, starting solo, getting into solopreneurship. We served people that we knew, got reviews, and then that started it was a strategic way, but low effort, low risk, low stress, and then it built from there.
I love that. I think that's just really great advice. Like, hey, what's the first step? Talk to your network, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you already know probably 200 people that are fairly close to you. Create awareness. Let them know what you're doing, and chances are they're going to have needs that you can help meet in those areas. So, So cool. Now, from there, you know, that's how you got launched. That's how you got started. Are there anything additional that you had to do, or was that kind of enough to give you the momentum to where now through Google or other specific platforms, you're just naturally getting leads?
It gives you the momentum because you're getting started. You're excited. People are happy for you. You're launching something. Then the excitement fades after that initial, launched my Instagram, launched my business. Everyone's happy. But then you hit reality of, okay, but how do I make this a business? And what I would tell anyone is you just dive into learning as much as possible. There's this sense of, like, it never ends with learning. And as a business owner, you never feel like you're in this spot of coasting, because you're learning how to get new clients. Then you're learning how to retain clients. Then you're learning how to expand in a way that's healthy for you. That might not be hiring employees. It might be hiring employees, but then maybe you got to hire management to manage the employees. But it's this never ending learning. And so if you got to be someone that just loves to learn and loves to dive deep into learning everything about your business. So that could be YouTube channels, podcasts, books. I love, it's a nightly thing of watching YouTube, watching professionals, learning something. Okay, great. Now I go the rest of the week and I apply what I learned.
Based on what you've studied and what you've learned, what would you say are some things, or maybe a core thing that comes to mind in regards to how to generate leads? You know, someone maybe is just getting started, they're trying to get their business off the ground, they don't know which directions to go in. What direction do you recommend, and maybe what have you guys done to do that?
Yeah, so a coach will definitely help guide you, especially when you're just new to something, you have no idea. Now that we are seasoned from the DJ photo booth business, we're able to navigate what that looks like for our business. But when starting out, it's having a coach that just helps guide you along the way. So when I had my coach, we went all in on SEO with our website. And so it's a long-term play, but it's search engine optimization. So people discover you through your website. It actually... That was the biggest game changer for us, was going into SEO. And so with my business, I don't have a lot of followers. My wife does, because that's her brand, is her community, talking to other balloon artists, other people in the wedding business. For my business, it wasn't that. It was more people are looking for photo booth businesses on Google. we still post on Instagram for our content, for like a portfolio of our services, video recaps, but the getting in leads and new customers and finding new clients for us was, well, people go to Google to find a photo booth. And so that's where we've had the most success. So once you discover what that is, then you just go all in on it.
And I love that you identified where your audience is at. I feel like that really is step one. Where are the people that you're targeting? Where are they hanging out? And that's something that just recently we learned a lesson the hard way. We switched our website from being a WordPress website to now a Webflow website. And somehow in that process, we must not have been doing certain things right. And it has really affected our SEO ranking. We used to have about 10,000 natural organic visitors per month to the website. It has now dropped down to 2,500. And, about a year ago, I was made aware of this. And I thought, oh, we just created a website. Like, dude, surely over time, it'll just naturally pick up. And I looked at one of the recent analytics reports and it hadn't. And it was still right around 2,500 visitors a month, which is crazy. That's not the amount that we need to have. And so we just 2 weeks ago hired someone on specifically for SEO. And their role is actually going to just be driving traffic to our page. They're putting together a lot of blogs. Right now we're doing a blog a day, a lengthy blog on a very targeted keyword type of topic, all with the goal of trying to just get in front of people.
Yeah, it's about discovering where your clients would find you. And the easy thing is going to the platform you're most familiar with, and that might work and help you get familiarity with people discovering your brand, knowing your brand. But the next level of turning it into a business is getting strategic, and you either learn it yourself or you hire a coach to walk you through that. So so for us, it's been our website for the photo booth side, and for the balloon side has been Instagram and social, and the marriage between the two allows us both to thrive. And that works for us.
As I look at the industry that I'm in, I have a lot of friends that we collaborate, people that are in the space with me, spread out across the US. So we're not really strong competitors. A lot of our clients wouldn't be working with them just because of geography. And the single biggest company in the container home space, the thing that drives all their traffic is their SEO. And that's something that I remember about 2 years ago, we had a conversation. His name's Bob. And Bob was like, man, we're going hard on SEO. And I remember recently looking at their analytics, and they're at like 40,000 organic views per month. And they've just been slowly climbing. But they're also doing probably 5 times the amount of work that we're doing. And so I just can see very practically how much that has impacted their business. And SEO isn't the only thing that someone can do, but it really is so foundational for most businesses. And I think once you kind of get that part in place, then you can transition into other things, other tactics, marketing on other platforms.
Yeah, getting strategic with our business with the SEO part was, I had a DJ name in the beginning, but no one's searching DJ Scuba. That was former name. No one's searching that. People are searching Las Vegas mobile DJs, Las Vegas wedding DJs. So I just use that as my name, business name. And that organically brought in leads, brought in traffic, because guess who's coming up number one? The more people click this link, the more it surfaces to the top. So that was a way that helped us get strategic. I didn't care about like the name of my DJ Pride, whatever. No, I want to help people, serve them at their wedding. And so that was a way of using strategic SEO strategy, Las Vegas wedding DJ, Las Vegas mobile DJ. And that launched us because like SEO is just it's something people don't know they need, but it's something everyone needs, like to get discovered. Because it's one thing to get your friends, get your cousins, get their friends to hire you. But when you start serving people and getting clients that have no idea who you are, well, that's where you need that next level strategy. For us, it was SEO. Some people use ads. Some people, I like both. I like running ads and I like the organic traffic. But yeah, that was one thing we discovered early on was, wow, this is like working. So that's what we stuck with, branded everything, Las Vegas mobile DJ. And then now we're at the point where people have recognition of our brand. We have the reviews. And so we transitioned to a photo booth company, but like that's our lead generator is like Las Vegas photo booths. Yeah. So learning the organic side of SEO, that's a long-term game. Even if you just started today with the strategy of ranking on Google, you're still looking at a solid 5 to 6 months to really, and that's if you're doing it well. Sure, you can do it 2 months or shorter, but like it's a long-term investment. The ad side is more of like selling right now, and that could work. That obviously works. We see thousands and tens of thousands of ads every day. So that might be a way to initially get people, but it's all about just having the right strategy. So I personally, because of my experience with running, we started lean, so I didn't have the money to outsource for an SEO specialist. I didn't have the money, food stamps. Didn't have the money to hire someone to build my own website. Didn't have the money to pay the ads and then also hire someone to make them. So I took the long road of learning all these things on my own. But if I started again, I would hire a coach to either a contractor that do all that for me, or at least show me the right way to do that. So I've been running my own ads, and then I help other businesses run their ads, run their SEO for their companies. And it's like this perfect harmony of learning something that you apply for your own business, and now you're helping other people with their business. So
love that. I want to shift gears here and talk about more the operational side of your business, the system side of your business. A lot of times when I think of leverage, I think, what can you automate? What can you delegate? What can you eliminate? And looking at the two businesses that you guys are running between the photo booth as well as the balloon artistry style business, what has that process and that journey been like? Have you been able to get to a place where certain aspects of that are not as manual maybe as they were in the early days, and they're now at a point where it flows a lot easier?
Right now we're experiencing a combination of both. So with my wife's balloon side of the business, that's fresh. Like that's 2 years, coming up on 2 years in the making. Photo booth side, I have the history of the wedding and service space from DJing. So I have all those automations where all I had to do was change the name of the business. But yeah, that's something you just learn, because especially if you're working a full-time job and doing something on the side and have a family and trying to stay happily married, all these things add up. So every unit of the day, every hour of the day, like that's an investment you're making. You because there's all these things that you want to prioritize and keep first in your life, but ultimately things that aren't in a system just get forgotten about. Like I don't try to remember anything. Everything's on the calendar. I want nothing stored. If someone's telling me something, I don't put it on the calendar, or it wasn't sent in an email or something. Like I just choose, no, I can't remember. If I try to remember everything, I'll remember nothing. Yeah. And so just having simple systems, your calendar system, and then there's learning what it means for your business of like automation. For ours, we use tools like Zapier that just automate your form submission from your website, which leads to an invoice in your point of sale system. Learning things like that on your own from a coach then helps you, okay, this is great. This used to take an hour a day, 5 hours a week. Now it takes an hour a week to go through that. And so just, learning, and especially with everything we have now of automation and tools, it's allowed you to be even better. Like, I don't think AI, with the automation I don't view it as taking people's jobs. It's just the person that knows AI is going to benefit in what they're already doing exponentially. So we've leaned into automations and getting her side of the business up to date with my side. And a lot of it is figuring things out on the way, and goes back to what I mentioned earlier, just constantly learning. Yeah,
I feel like on the point of constantly learning, I've heard it said that, the biggest expense in any business is your ignorance tax. It's essentially you not being able to make more money than you could have had you just known certain things, right? And so, we had talked about the importance of educating yourself, YouTube University, listening to content in your car or at the gym and all of this. But you've brought up the idea of coaching several times. And I want to ask you, currently with what you're doing or historically with your business, how have you used coaching and what have you looked for in a coach? Is it someone who's industry specific for what the industry that you're in, or is it related to a certain topic, or just how have you navigated that?
The first thing I would do is find someone that can help, asking all the questions, because it just sounds so simple, just asking questions. But if you hang around anyone that has just been through all the struggles and going and still making it work, someone can ask you or me right now, what type of business should I start? And we're like, I could think of 1,000 different things because my business has payroll and like bookkeeping that needs to be done. And your business has all these little things, the marketing side, the SEO side that we mentioned. Like if you just start hanging around with people that are where you want to be, the questions come along, the answers, the help, the support, and it just starts challenging your thinking in ways like not previously possible. Because typically, as most of us do, we work a normal job, and then we're not a bad thing. We're just surrounded by normal people of working a normal job and making it work, and it's all fine. But if you want to go into entrepreneurship, starting your own business, seeing if that would work, you just start hanging around with people that are doing that. And you'll come up with stuff like they've never even thought of. Like if we could start talking, be like, oh, have you thought of this? Like, oh, no, I didn't think of that. Like, because you've been through it before. So just being around people with the experience will help you more than like any book or podcast or anything. Just that hands-on hanging out, like, I don't know, buy me lunch, buy me a coffee or something like. Yeah, exactly. Like it doesn't need to be more complicated than that. Of hanging out with Tony, hanging out with someone you see that started a business. They'll give you hundreds of ideas of what that might look like for you.
Yeah, I think I can speak for a lot of people that people in business want to see you succeed. Especially like for me, if I see someone that's interested in starting a business and they're in the idea stage and they're ready to make the leap, man, I want to do whatever I can to help you succeed. And I want, whatever lessons I've learned the hard way, like, man, I want you to avoid them. And it's my job to help you do that. Now, one of the things that's really unique about your situation is that you and your wife are running your businesses together. Now, a lot of people may have hesitations about that, right? Like, oh, how can you run a business with your spouse? Isn't there going to be conflict and there's going to be challenges and all of that? But I feel like you guys have done it so well and you're such a good example of it. Can you talk us through that a little bit about what were some of the pros and what are some of the cons of the journey of running the business together as a married couple?
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges is even though we're doing this together as husband and wife, there's still things and areas like we have to discover on our own, like buying whatever that means for your business, for us, the photo booth and that investment. For me, I was in the stage of, easy. The return on investment, I'm thinking, okay, we just need to book it out once a month for 12 months at a certain rate. We'll have it paid off, in a year or so. Her experience, like this is totally new, this side of entrepreneurship, because she had just been removed from her 9-to-5. And so that created some conflict of, oh no, like that's way too much. Like, how are we going to afford that? What if it doesn't work out? And so you have to embrace that you're both going to learn this process together. And sometimes at your own speed. Like I needed to learn more about the aesthetics and the, I'm more focused on the systems and how to make the return on investment. And she brought the side of, okay, but we can like present our brand as luxury or present our brand as high quality, because I'm thinking, well, we could just buy the cheapest balloons for her side of the business. And she's like, no, we need to invest in the higher quality side. So we both are on the same page in our own ways. But then after those initial 3 to 4 months, you just start learning, okay, well, he was right, she was right. You learn together what didn't work. But just, it's a marriage. Any marriage, you need to be on the same page. The same goes for your business. And so when we're talking about new ideas, now we're presenting them together as, okay, how can this work for you? How can this work for your side of the business? And then we make it work together. So there's definitely challenges, but you discover real quick, it's just like the marriage. When two people move in together, it's like, all right, well, now two people are running a business together. And so, but for us, it brings fulfillment. Like, we wouldn't be doing it if it didn't bring fulfillment. And it goes back to that, because we're not chasing a dollar. We're not chasing a sale. We're not trying to sell you something. These two businesses that are now one started with this idea of bringing fulfillment to someone and their special day or their event. We're so service-based and driven of helping people and serving them. So we're on the same page in our business, and that's what it's about. And so any disagreement, like, it's really of, well, I think I can serve the customer better this way, or maybe this way. But running a business together is the same as running a marriage, being married, but it just brings us fulfillment in what we do. So it helps us push past that stress or disagreement. And yeah, I
love that. I feel like, all the time you would hear people talking in terms of business that a partnership is a lot like a marriage. And that if you're going to be partnering with someone, it's really got to be a good match. And with you guys, even the ability to have that yin and that yang, that opposites, attract kind of factor where, you have your certain strengths and she has her certain strengths. And you guys are able to come together and ultimately be better with two than you would be with just one. Now, for this next question, I want to address the person that is currently a business owner, but they're struggling, they're overwhelmed. And because of your background in personal finance, I specifically want the question to come from an angle of someone who's overwhelmed financially. What is the way out of that in business? Maybe it's just some practical initial things that somebody can do.
Yeah, so if you are looking to make the first step, it's stopping the bleeding with whatever is going on right now. Now, for most people, it's the finances are in a mess. So maybe I'll jump to a side hustle to bring in some more money, and that's good. Like, you got to figure out the personal side of where your money is going and what you're doing with it, because then that stress from your personal life will just translate into your side hustle, translate into your small business. And so, like, that's just part of who I am, is teaching people your personal finances play the biggest role in everything else in your life. And so getting that in order, and some practical ways to do that is meeting with someone that'll just guide you through it, because it's not so much about how much money you make. It's about how well you manage what you have. So if you can start small with managing what you already have, that'll unlock the next level of being able to manage more, because it's very hard to go to each level of this journey when you're just ignoring all the stress and all the chaos and all the confusion and trying to start a new business and a new side hustle. Almost impossible to have it work out that way.
Dude, I love your point about stopping the bleeding. Like, I look back at our season, it was really difficult. At the end of the day, I had way too many expenses. And I had the expenses there because I thought I needed them, right? Like, maybe it was a certain role and I thought, man, if I don't have this person, how is my business going to continue to move forward? And it's been surprising that we were able to cut down our expenses significantly. In the course of probably 18 months, we dropped our total expenses by about 90%. And yet still operationally, we were able to perform at a really high level. And so I think sometimes if you're in business, you feel like you may need all these extra supports, but the reality is you can't afford to be bleeding out, and you have to stop that bleeding. And so it's just a numbers game. You cannot be spending more than you're making.
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to what you want. So with our photo booth business, we don't want to be booked every day of the month, because if we can be booked once or twice a month at a higher value to someone, like a wedding, corporate event, and get the same income as working 3 events a week, like, you just got to discover what you want. And maybe it is scale and you want 10 different photo booths or 10 different, sites and locations. We want to still value our time, like 1 event per week. And now we're exceeding that. But it came down to realizing, like, what does success mean for us? Like, what do we get fulfilled in? And so, yeah, that's the biggest thing for us, is knowing what that is. And then you can make decisions built around that.
Now, as we're closing out, how can people get in touch with you? How can they stay connected and follow along with what you're doing?
So it's just simple. Follow me at Simple Wealth on Instagram and sign up for my newsletter. Just the link there. That'll get you like a clear path forward of where you're at right now and where you want to go.
Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate having you on. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I know this blessed a lot of people. And for those of you that were joining us, I hope you enjoyed our time together. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode.